Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is a 2015 action role-playing game developed and published by CD Projekt. It is the sequel to the 2011 game Witcher 2 Assassins of Kings and the third game in the Witcher video game series. Played in an open world with a third-person perspective, the game follows the Witcher series of fantasy novels written by Andrzej Sapkowski. The game takes place in a fictional fantasy world based on Slavic mythology. Players control Geralt of Rivia, a monster slayer for hire known as a Witcher, and search for his adopted daughter, who is on the run from the otherworldly Wild Hunt. Players battle the game's many dangers with weapons and magic, interact with non-player characters, and complete quests to acquire experience points and gold, which are used to increase Geralt's abilities and purchase equipment. The game's story has 3 possible endings, determined by the player's choices at key points in the narrative. Development began in 2011 and lasted for 3.5 years. Central and Northern European cultures form the basis of the game's world. The game was developed using Red Engine 3, which enabled CD Projekt to create a complex story without compromising its open world. The music was primarily composed by Marcin Prisivovic and performed by the Brandenburg State Orchestra. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt was released for PlayStation 4, Windows and Xbox One in May of 2015, with a Nintendo Switch version released in October 2019, and PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series XS versions titled Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, the Complete Edition, were released in December of 2022. The game received critical acclaim with praise for its gameplay, narrative, well-designed, combat and visuals, although it received minor criticism due to its technical issues. It holds more than 200 Game of the Year awards and has been cited as one of the greatest video games ever made. 2 expansions were also released to critical acclaim, Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine. A Game of the Year edition was released in August 2016, with the base game, expansions and all downloadable content included. The game shipped over 40 million copies, making one of the best-selling video games of all time. The game is set in the continent, a fictional fantasy world based on Slavic mythology. It is surrounded by parallel dimensions and extra-dimensional worlds. Humans, elves, dwarves, monsters, and other creatures coexist on the continent, but non-humans are often persecuted for their differences. The continent is caught up in a war between the Empire of Nilfgaard, led by Emperor Emir van Emmerich, voiced by Charles Dance, who invaded the northern kingdoms, and Redania, ruled by King Radnoid V. Several locations appear, including the free city of Novigrad, the Redanian city of Oxenfurt, the no-man's land of Velen, the city of Visma, former capital and recently conquered by Temeria, the Skellige Islands, home to several Norse Gaels Viking clans, and the Witcher stronghold of Kai Moren. The main character in Witcher is the Geralt of Rivia, voiced by Doug Cockle, a monster hunter trained since childhood in combat, tracking, alchemy and magic, and made stronger, faster and resistant to toxins by mutagens. He's aided by his lover, the powerful sorceress Yennefer of Venderberg, voiced by Denise Goff, and his former love interest Triss Merigold, voiced by Jamie Barankoff. The bard Dandelion, John Schwab, the dwarf warrior Zoltan Chevet, voiced by Alexander Morton, and Geralt's Witcher mentor Vesemir, voiced by William Roberts. Geralt is spurred into action by the reappearance of his and Yennefer's adopted daughter, Ciri, played by Jo Wyatt. Ciri is a source born with innate and potential vast magical abilities. After the apparent death of her parents, she was trained as a witcher while Yennefer taught her magic. Ciri disappeared years before to escape the Wild Hunt, a group of spectral warriors led by the king of the Wild Hunt, the elf Eredin, from a parallel dimension. Although the game was planned to begin production in 2008, CG Projekt, preoccupation with the rise of the White Wolf, pushed it back to 2011. The company developed The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt with a self-funded budget of $81 million over 3.5 years. The project began with 150 employees, eventually growing to 250 in-house staff. 1,500 people involved in the production globally. While the game is based on the novels, it is not an official continuation of them, and author Sapkowski's involvement with the game was limited due to the creation of an in-game map. The game was localized in 15 languages, with a total of 500 voice actors. The game was scripted concurrently in Polish and English to alleviate difficulty in localization. According to Side, the company which handled the voice casting and recording, the script was 450,000 words, and there were 950 speaking roles. The voices were recorded from late 2012 to 2015. One thing that stands out in Witcher 3 is that each character was given a unique personality to contrast the fetch quest system typically used in video games. It was decided early on that the writing would be witty, with metaphors and implied meanings. The dialogue was limited to 15 lines, with occasional exceptions to retain content originality. Player options were written as morally ambiguous, reflecting real life and Andrzej Sapkowski's original Witcher series. Alcoholism, abuse, sexuality depicted as normal parts of the medieval world were incorporated into the story for authenticity. Areas of the open world were based on Poland, Amsterdam and Scandinavia, and objects were modelled by hand. Now, upon first playing this game, I wasn't exactly blown away about it. I found the graphics to be somewhat dated, and the story just didn't grab me from the onset. It was only about a year later that I decided to give the game a proper chance. And let's just say I'm not sorry I did. The game has received widespread critical acclaim upon its release, and for good reason. The world of The Witcher 3 is richly detailed and immersive, with stunning graphics and a huge open world environment to explore. The game also features complex and engaging storyline that is both emotionally resonant and intellectually challenging. Gameplay-wise, The Witcher 3 is a lot of fun. Combat is fast-paced and satisfying, with a variety of weapons, spells and abilities to choose from. The game also features a robust crafting system and a deep skill tree that allows for customization and strategic thinking. But what really sets The Witcher 3 apart for me is its attention to detail and its commitment to storytelling. The characters are well developed and memorable, with complex motivations and relationships that evolve over the course of the game. The writing is smart and witty, with lots of humour and heart to balance out the darker themes. The mere fact that there are so many choices that you can make in the game that will result in a different ending almost makes it feel like real-life choices, and just adds further to the excellence of the storytelling in this game. Overall, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is an absolute masterpiece of a game that deserves all the praise it has received. Whether you're a fan of action games, RPGs, or just great storytelling, The Witcher 3 is definitely worth playing for any astute gamer. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt gets a 9.5 out of 10.